morning. Good afternoon to a few of you. Welcome to today's community briefing. It is the 26th of September in year 2024. My name is Gregory Sneed, and we are glad you're here. Today, our guest is assessor Jeff Prang, and he'll be joining us momentarily. So sit back and relax. We're about to learn a lot of things about how the assessments work here in our community. My company name, CEO of Lifesaver Financial Services, also DJS Financial Services. I got that shirt on today. And I help my clients keep more of the money they make so they feel better about their life. And now my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage the final week of the September queen of our community briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Thank you, Greg. Next month I'll be really the Egyptian queen again because that's where I'm heading back to Egypt. So, for my annual pilgrimage to Egypt. Welcome everyone to the community briefing. So happy to have you, all of those of you that are our regulars and those of you that are visiting us for the first time, and we hope it won't be your last time. This platform was an inspiration of mine during the pandemic. I wanted to make sure we knew where all the money was and who was doing what and who was sitting at what tables, and just to be well informed. One of the things I had recognized in this community is that we find things out last. So we're trying to make sure you are right there at the pulse of things going on. We have a fabulous team. But before we do that, I am the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, as well as I have my own business practice as well called Mitchell Business Solutions, and I provide business coaching and resources and services for the small business minority community in Los Angeles. And I also do coaching and consulting for a number of the agencies in the community: LA Urban League, Vermont Slauson, GLAC, the New Women's Business Center. This platform, as I said, is our platform, is our networking platform. It is our meeting and greeting all those that are in our city doing some amazing things. So these are our stakeholders, our leaders and stakeholders. So it's the opportunity for you to engage with them. We do ask you to put all of your comments in the chat, and then Greg, our moderator, will address those questions. We have a fantastic guest today, Mr. Jeff Prang, and he is the assessor of Los Angeles County for property taxes. And so we are excited. His team is here as well to share information with you. Please introduce yourself. We have a fabulous team. Mr. Gregory Sneed, he's introduced himself. Stephen Turner, who is the producer of the show, and thank you for that, Stephen, because he gets all that correspondence out. And then Miss Robin Billups, who is not here today. And so in honor of her, since she's not here, before I turn it back over to Greg, is voting season is upon us. We are less than 40 days. We need to make sure everyone gets to the polls and not only vote for the president, which is extremely important, and I'm not going to tell you how important because you already know that, but we need to make sure we're voting down ballot, because that for us in our local areas is just as important, if not more so. So later on, we have Roz Pendleton, and I assume Emma Maxey is going to come on. They have an excellent programming going over at the new townhouse, where they're going over all of the ballot questions. I believe last night they talked about Project 25. So they're going to do a really report. And then we have Miss Sarah Harris. This is a collaboration, the community briefing with Recycling Black Dollars and the BBA. We're also monetarily sponsored by the Los Angeles LDC, and as well as Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas, Wells Fargo Bank, and PCR. And we welcome any support you'd like to give us. And with that, I will turn it back over to Greg.
Thank you. So our guest today is Assessor Jeff Prang, and he is the Los Angeles County Assessor. He was elected in 2014 and re-elected in 2018 and again in 2022. So he must be doing something right. He got elected twice, re-elected twice. He is the 27th assessor in the county's history, and a 3-decade-long career in public service includes 18 years on the West Hollywood City Council and 4 terms as the city's mayor. Assessor Prang runs the largest assessment agency in the nation. 1,400 employees, provides the foundation for a property tax system that generates over $20 billion annually for vital county public services such as first responders, education, and transportation upgrades. In his decade-long tenure, Assessor Jeff Prang implemented comprehensive reforms to modernize the office and improve the efficiency and transparency. These improvements were well received by the public and his fellow assessors. As a result, his office was twice awarded the Certificate of Excellence in Assessment Administration, that's the CEAA, by the International Association of Assessing Officers. They got an association for assessing officers. That's pretty cool. The highest honor that can be granted to a government assessment agency. So I mentioned the past experience with the city of West Hollywood, city of Pico Rivera, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office. He was special assistant there, city of Los Angeles. And he has a certificate or from Harvard University, John F. Kennedy School of Government, program for senior executives, a Bachelor of Arts from Michigan State University, and in international relations. He went to Henry Ford College. That's in Dearborn. So I imagine you must hail from the Detroit or metropolitan Detroit area, Michigan. And all right, so
I'm from Macomb County.
all right. And I guess the important question is that when Michigan State plays some of the LA teams, who are you rooting for? You rooting?
I'm. It'll be very easy. I'm looking forward to Michigan State beating USC and UCLA in every game.
Ooh, there you go. So you just gained some friends and formed some enemies at the same time.
Yeah.
Please join me in welcoming Assessor Jeff Prang to the community briefing.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see all of you. First, I did want to apologize. I'm going to try to say most of the presentation today is going to be something my staff is going to lead. I'm also out of town on kind of urgent family business, so I apologize in advance. I may not be able to stay with us through the whole call, but it was important for me to be here to be able to make an introduction, to introduce my staff, to tell you a little bit about why we're gathered and why it was important that we that meet with you and share some information today. One of the things that's been important since I've been assessor is we collect enormous amounts of data about LA County, about real estate and property, and really just about the people and communities of LA County. However, over the years, we really use that information for a very single, narrow function. We determine the value of property in order to generate property taxes for local government. But we know our information is extremely valuable. There are places like the UCLA Anderson forecast uses our data to help forecast the economy as it relates to real estate. We have companies like Zillow and Redfin that will buy our data, and a lot of the data that you receive online from a lot of these platforms are fundamentally based on Los Angeles County data. And it was my view that the data that we have is really public information, and it's valuable to not only members of the public, but to policymakers, city council members, the board of supervisors. And I wanted to be in control with the release of that data to make it useful for members of the public without people having to pay. Over the last year, we've expanded some of the positions we have in our office. We are hiring data analysts and data scientists whose job it is to look through all this data to find things that are useful, that are informative for policymakers and for members of the community. And a lot of this data is now revealing some really interesting stuff. And we're going to talk about one of those elements today. With me on the call is Scott Thornberry. Scott's the assistant assessor. He's in charge of valuation and operations for our office. He's also in charge of technology and this entire data analysis program. And he's going to do most of the talking here today about what they have learned. I also have Ted Olgin, who's my chief of staff over public affairs, and Ian May, who's the special assistant field deputy. But I think the information that Scott has is going to present to you today, I think you're going to find to be fascinating, revealing. It's going to tell us a story that sometimes will be counterintuitive. We're not quite sure what to do with it, but that's not the job of the assessor, is to determine what to do with it, is to present to people like you who think about these things and may draw some conclusions uh, strategic avenues that might be important as a result of this data. So I'm going to turn this over to Scott right away so he can start giving this presentation. But when he first presented this information to me a couple of months ago, um, I was overwhelmed. I said, we need to start reaching out to the community to share this data. It's been refined a great deal since then. I think you're going to be really impressed with what we have for you today. So let me, without any further ado, turn it over to Scott Thornberry and have him
Hey,
get started.
Jeff, before you do that with
Sure.
Scott, just wanted to convey, on behalf of my co-host here, you said you're there for family business, so our prayers are with you for, family's important, and it's probably the most closest thing that we have to deal with, and if it took you away there, obviously it's something important. We just let you know that our hearts are with you there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Scott, you're on.
Good afternoon. So I'm just going to share my screen. And while I do that, I do have my data science team in the room with me. You can't see them, they're not on the call. But Leah and Jade and Andrew and Michelle and Miriam, they're all sitting in the room with me. And they're the folks who are responsible for putting together this data. And so I just wanted to acknowledge them. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect. Okay, I've got a lot of information to go through, and so I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, and then we'll have some time at the end for some questions and answers. Let me see if I can get this started here. There we go. Okay, so several years ago, there were a number of studies that went out nationwide about how assessors are doing in terms of bias and equity in their assessments. And so Assessor Prang asked us to look at what's going on internally, and I'll go through some of this. So we're gonna talk about whether there is an assessment gap here in LA County, called the assessment gap. And we're also going to talk about some market growth in communities of color, and maybe how Prop 13 plays into all this. So there's a variety of things we're going to talk about here. But I think you're going to find these stats very interesting. So first, assessment gap and assessment growth. There was a study by a group called equitablegrowth.org called the Assessment Gap, Racial Inequalities and Property Taxation. And there were some startling finds in that study. So they used what we call sales ratios. They're called assessment ratios. But these are the ratio of a property's assessed value to its realized market value. And what they found is for African American residents, the average sales ratio was almost 13% higher compared to white residents. This meant that for the same property, Black residents were paying about $400 a year more in property taxes than white residents for the same property, which is a startling find. And the study goes into why all that is. It gets complex. It has to do with how assessors do the work, using computer algorithms and so on. But it's a very interesting and startling find. Furthermore, they said that the national assessment patterns are consistent within the same property. Assessment growth is significantly higher during the tenure of a Black or Hispanic homeowner. So not only are they paying more, the growth in the assessed value tends to be higher for Black and Hispanic property owners. Now, there's one catch here. In the study, they excluded California from the study. And the reason for that is because of Prop 13. So in their words, where the primary driver of inequality in the California property tax system is more likely related to differentials in homeowner tenure and regional price appreciation, rather than some of these other mechanisms that they go on in detail to study. So the question is, well, what's happening here in California in terms of the assessment gap? And in particular, Assessor Prang wanted to know, well, what's going on in LA County, right? Do we see an assessment gap? Now here's where the data comes in. We did our own sales ratio study, and what we found is that in the Black predominant areas, using census data, in the Black predominant areas, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. In the Black predominant areas, the sales ratio is lower than in the white predominant areas, and significantly lower. In fact, it's about the same percentage, about 13% or so on the low side rather than on the high side. Furthermore, when you look at 10-year assessment growth, the assessment growth in white predominant areas is significantly higher than in Black predominant areas. So this means, and I don't have a number for that, but this means that Black homeowners are paying lower, and for the same property, they're paying a lower amount of property tax than for white homeowners. It's exactly the opposite. And this is because of Prop 13. So this is a number of measures surrounding Prop 13. What Prop 13 does, of course, it says when you acquire your home, you're assessed at the market value of the home at the time that you acquired the home, and that becomes your base year, right? The exception to that was in 1978. Anything acquired before 1978, they gave it a 1975 assessed value, and so that becomes important. These are all reflections of that base year and how Prop 13 actually protects specifically in this case Black and Hispanic homeowners. And the one statistic I really wanted to point out here, though, is you see for properties with a 1975 base year, so these are folks that have been in their homes since 1975, the statistic in Black predominant areas is 17% of single-family residences have a 1975 base year value, and as compared to 7 or 8% for the rest of the county. This is a starting statistic. And what these statistics show on this particular slide is that this is related to Prop 13. So Prop 13 protects Black homeowners from any deleterious impacts. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the market and some socioeconomic factors. This is one of my favorite maps of LA County. And what you're seeing here is a range of sales prices over about a 25-year period. So if you look in the yellow areas at the top right, these are areas where on average sales of homes are in about the 5th percentile countywide. That's the yellow. When you get into the greens, it's a little bit more. And when you move all the way to the reds, these are homes selling in the top 10%, about the 95th percentile on average countywide. So when you stack all of those sales up countywide over a 25-year period, you see some patterns happening in certain areas, right? So keep this in mind, because it's going to become important for the rest of the presentation. What we did as a part of this study, we were asked by a third party to also look at market value growth in, not assessed value growth, but market value growth in communities of color. And so we started to break this down. And what you see here in yellow is, according to the census, these are areas where there's a predominant Black population. So either it's a plurality or it's a majority population in these given census block tract areas. And so we really narrowed and focused these down. And you're looking at, down the start, you got Carson down here in this, starting from the south and moving up. You got a Carson, Compton, Inglewood, what we're calling the Western Avenue Corridor, the Crenshaw Boulevard Corridor south of Slauson, Crenshaw Boulevard Corridor north of Slauson, and the View Park Windsor area, Miracle Mile north of the 10, and Altadena north of the 210. These were the areas that we could really identify as with really isolating in terms of the folks that identify themselves as African American or Black in the census. And then we can develop some census statistics and market value statistics around these areas. Now keep in mind that in these yellow areas that are called out here, these are Black predominant areas. only 25% of the population, of the Black population within LA County, live within these yellow census areas. So the other 75% live outside of those areas in other parts of the county. So, but again, what we were studying is isolating impacts on demographically predominant areas. And what I want to highlight here is we want to go back to that 1975 base year. Here's those 8 areas. And this is in order of, what the sales are. So Compton Willowbrook averages at about the 15th percentile of sales. 17% of properties are at the 75 base year. You go all the way to the other end of that, the bottom there, View Park, Windsor. The sales are in the 80th percentile of sales across the county, and 13% of the properties are at the 1975 base year. Again, countywide, we're looking at 7%. A couple of areas that really stand out are Carson. That's at 20%, very high. And the Crenshaw Boulevard corridor, that's the south of Slauson, that's Inglewood, 12%. I think we're seeing the SoFi Stadium effect there. It's going to lower that 1975 base year. But these are really startling. When you look at the statistics, these are really startling. These are really starting statistics. And we think a big part of this is what's called the heirs property, right? It's multi-generations of a single family owning a property, never really going through probate process. And so, your parents pass away, you inherit the home, you go about living your life, you live in the home, you go about living your life, you pay your property taxes. But there's never a recordation, a new chain of title that's happening. And we think that's a large part of what's going into these 1975, these high percentages of 1975 base years. And we'll talk about, if we have time at the end, how that could impact property taxes. Okay. So we were asked to look at market growth in these communities of color. And here's just a generic chart. And this is market growth over 10 years. And we see the light blue line at the top is market growth in Black predominant areas. And you see market growth is higher than in any of the other areas. The dark blue line is countywide. The gray is Hispanic. The orange is white. And the yellowish, goldish is Asian. So you see a startling statistic that market value growth is highest in the Black communities. And in fact, when we go back to this chart, this is a heat map showing market growth over these 10 years, these last 10 years. And the darkest red is the hottest areas, the areas with the most growth. And you see that most of our Black predominant areas, according to the census, are in these dark red areas, seeing the highest growth, which is an interesting statistic. We spent a lot of time asking why that is. And we think we found an answer. This is what we think you'll find interesting. What this is showing is the percentage of sales, single-family residential sales in LA County. This is the orange line in LA County that are corporate buyers, institutional investors. And we see in these Black predominant areas, they're part of our analysis, you see that the percentage of corporate buyers are significantly higher. And we have reason to believe that in those areas, and we'll see some statistics in just a moment, that what's driving that higher growth in market value is this corporate buyers, institutional investors that are driving some of these prices. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of these areas, community profiles, and I have 5 queued up here, and we'll go through as many as we can get through in the next 5 or 10 minutes here. Okay, we're going to start in the south with Compton Willowbrook. Cities of Carson, Compton, unincorporated Rosewood, West Rancho Dominguez, and Willowbrook. Okay, so this is all south of the 105 freeway and kind of centered along North Central Avenue. This area is 60% Black, 37% Hispanic. Typical home, mid-1950s built with 1,200 square feet, and 60% of the properties are owner occupied. here's the market growth. And what I've done here is this area sits in Compton Willowbrook, in Compton Willowbrook, and most of the cells in that are between the 10th and 20th percentile, so average about 15th percentile. And so what we've done here is we're tracking, we call them REICs, real estate socioeconomic indices. So we're tracking the market value within this Compton Willowbrook area with its associated real estate socioeconomic area, which is called a REIC, and you see that it performs about the same. In terms of corporate buyers, the orange line is the countywide. In the REIC is the dark green, and the light green is this particular area. And you see that corporate buyership is much higher than countywide in the Compton Willowbrook area, especially in the 2009 to 2013, 2014, and during the Great Recession, during that period. But it has remained higher since then as well. Here's median sale price. So for the corporate buyers, we got red, and non-corporate buyers, we have blue. And so you see that the median sale price is actually higher for the institutional investors than it is for everyone else. And we believe that this is the chart that actually shows why the growth is so much higher in these areas than for the rest of the county. Okay, Western Avenue corridor, including portions of Hawthorne, Inglewood, the Los Angeles, Crenshaw, and South Vermont communities, and unincorporated Athens, Westmont. And you see Western Avenue kind of marked off in the middle there. This is primarily north of the 105 freeway. 71% Black, 24% Hispanic. Homes typically built in the 1940s with 1,350 square feet and 54% owner occupied. Here's the market growth. You see the market growth is beating the similar real estate socioeconomic areas, the third and fourth ones. And we see corporate buyers. Again, a significant number of corporate buyers or significant percentage of corporate buyers as compared to countywide, and their and similar homes in similar socioeconomic areas. So significantly different. So we're averaging countywide, by the way, about 9% corporate buyership. Here along the Western Avenue corridor, it's 20%. It's quite high. 1 out of every 5 homes. Okay, and then again, median sale price is higher than for corporate buyers than non-corporate buyers, and we think that is driving those inflated market values. Okay. Next one is Crenshaw Boulevard. This is City of Inglewood, the Los Angeles Crenshaw community and unincorporated area by Athens and Westmont. You see in the black line there, Crenshaw Boulevard. And really, Inglewood is right in the middle of there. This area is south of Slauson. Most of it's south of Slauson. So to give you a sense of what's happening here. Demographic, 70% Black, 22% Hispanic. Typical homes built in the 1950s, 1,400 square feet, and 45% owner occupied. And again, we see market value significantly higher than both the market value growth, significantly higher than the countywide, and their similar homes in the same real estate socio and economic indices. I want to talk a little bit about SoFi Stadium here. And really we're looking at the dark blue line here. This is the SoFi effect, and we see in Inglewood. Before 2014, the properties were at about the 45th, 45th percentile, 50th percentile of sales countywide. And we see now after groundbreaking of the SoFi Stadium, they're now in the nearing 65th percentile of sales. So quite a bit of increase in the higher price sales coming in the Inglewood, Crenshaw Boulevard area. Okay, corporate buyers, again, same story. Corporate buyers significantly higher, not as significant as in the last area that we looked at, but quite significant and higher than the countywide and its peers in similar socioeconomic areas. And then median sale price comes in. Generally, it's been higher, but I think we see once SoFi Stadium opened, we see things leveling off there between corporate and non-corporate buyers. But now it seems to be significantly different now, probably with the interest rates impacting the market values. Crenshaw Boulevard corridor north of Slauson. So this is Los Angeles, Adams, La Brea, and Crenshaw communities. Demographics, 71% Black, 18% Hispanic. Typical home is late 1940s, 1,400 square feet, 25% owner occupied. This area is significantly different in terms of the number of renters, very high renter percentage in this area. But the story is very similar, right? Market value growth significantly higher than it has been in the similar socioeconomic areas. And here we have corporate buyers, and you see it's just ramped up significantly. And in last year, we're close to 35%, very, very high. So 1 out of every 3 homes in this area are now institutional investors. And you see is consistent median sale price by corporate buyers higher than non-corporate buyers, again driving those market values up. Okay, I think I'm about where I should be. View Park Windsor's, it's about the same tale. Very similar statistics. So I'll leave it there and we can open this up for questions.
I didn't want to come off. It didn't want to come off mute. It was. Thank you. That was. I was just putting in the chat. It's interesting that statistics are confirming what many of us see is happening and going on. What we hear from real estate agents that homes they either go on the market or may not even go. They may not even get to MLS, and then they're snapped up by corporate investors. Any stats on whether they are holding them or are they flipping them? Because we see a lot of properties that are acquired. They're held for about a year. They're modernized and then put back on the market. We're also seeing a lot where those homes then are turned into rental units.
That's a great question, and I actually for time's sake, I actually pulled those slides out. I wish I would have left it in now. So that's an awesome question. We do have a separate slide that is corporate ownership. Okay, so we have corporate buyers, how many sales are in institutional investors, and then how many of those sales are retaining their ownership, corporate ownership. And we're seeing consistent patterns. They're mostly holding. I mean, there are folks who come in and flip, but our corporate ownership statistics show an increase over the last 10, 15 years. And that increase is steady.
My guess is 1/3, 2/3. Is that that's just a gut feel?
It's very small. You'd be surprised. It's about 3% corporate ownership.
No, I mean of the corporate ownership, how many of them are holding and versus flipping? You say it's 97.3?
No, it's 3% of owners are corporate owners.
Okay.
Right? But of those, I understand your question now. We don't know that. That's a great question, and we can. That's something for the data science team to dig into. We'd be happy to follow up with you later.
Yeah, because if they are taking advantage of the low market value and fixing it up and then putting it on the market, now the buyer they're paying a higher price, but they've got a home that is doesn't need all of the expensive repairs that a buyer. If they're strapped to get in, they don't have that construction experience where a corporate, they're using, contractors. But if the corporations are holding on to them, now they're removing it from the supply of homes to purchase. and then it now just becomes corporate owned single family homes for rent, and so now it's a rental income for that, and
Well, that is one of the impacts that we're seeing in a lot of other markets across the country. I think places like Arizona and Las Vegas, where a lot of corporate owners scooped up these properties that were impacted by the recession of 2008 to 2010. From a policy analysis perspective, I don't know what all the impacts can be, but we do know it's pretty easy to speculate what some of the negative impacts could be about having more corporate ownership of single family homes, which historically have been predominantly owned by individuals. It could end up pushing up market prices. There could be a lot of other market-based impacts that we're just now starting to see and to trying to understand, which is I think one of the reasons why this sort of data that Scott's team has put together is so useful. I want to get this into the hands of experts in the real estate community. I want to get this in the hands of the board of supervisors and city council so that they can make more informed decisions about how land use and housing issues impact their communities.
yeah. I mean, Crystal put it in here: are the corporate owners driving up the prices of homes in our communities?
Yeah,
I
I
would
think,
suspect that they are, Scott.
yeah, so we actually have a couple of slides that I showed were fresh off the presses like a half hour or so before the presentation. So we're going to dig into some of those, but we think probably that again, we go back to that, what's driving the higher growth in the Black community specifically, and we think it's probably because the corporate owners are coming in and outbidding other prospective buyers. We're seeing different patterns happen now. Generally, that corporate the corporate owner percentage versus non-corporate owner, it's actually flipped countywide. So we're seeing this particular in terms of the median sale price, right? So typically, corporate owners are coming in outside of these Black communities, are coming in and buying properties at a lower value, right? But they're coming into these particular communities, the ones that we've identified, and they're actually paying more. So it may be something unique there, that they're having to pay more to get into these homes. But it's something we're going to continue to dig into for sure.
Does LA County have the largest number of homes inside of a county? I mean, because Los Angeles County is huge. I think it was at 4,700 square miles or something. It's almost as large as Rhode Island.
Yeah, we're not the largest in the world, but we're definitely the big county in the United States.
How has Prop 13 changed valuation and property values within the Black community here in LA County versus the drawing correlations outside of the state of California? I mean, I know that study intentionally excluded California because of Prop 13.
Right, and so in the rest of the world, California is different in terms of property taxation. The rest of the world, your market value is supposed to be close to your assessed value, right? And obviously, Prop 13, it's a completely different ballgame, and that's why they excluded it. Now, Prop 13 actually is a greater protection for, especially the Black community, and we think, and it's because of this high percentage of these older base year values. We think a lot of this is the heir, like I mentioned before, the heirs property, right? There are some possible now with Prop 19 in the mix. There are some property possibly negative impacts to folks who are inheriting their homes. They could end up paying higher property taxes if their home is not recorded or if we're not notified of the sale. That Prop 19 is pretty restrictive in terms of how it impacts homeowners. So there could be some negative assessments there. But I don't think the market value so much is impacted by Prop 13. It's really it's more of those the impacts at the assessment level and the property tax level.
Scott, let me put a little finer point on something you just said. You talked about the recording. One of the things we are observing is that people are inheriting their property, but they're not going through the formal process to notify us. So let's say your parents bought your home in the early 70s, and that home has a 1975 base year, which is the oldest base year. And then your parents die and you live in that home, but you didn't tell us that your parents are dead, so their name is still on the deed. You're still paying the same taxes. You would have been entitled to pay that anyway if you had filed what was used to be a Prop 58. But now, so much time has passed by. This for a number of families is going to be catastrophic, because if we learn that somebody's living in the home and they haven't registered it within their name, there could be a reassessment, there could be back taxes, and the percentage of families in which this informal transfer of property is occurring could have some other implications. The other thing is Prop 19. The problem with Prop 19 is now in LA County, with the median sales price of a single family home between 900,000 and a million, Prop 19 only protects the first $1 million in value. So if your parents bought their home in 1975 for $100,000, it may be assessed at $250,000 today, but the value may be $2 million. So when you inherit that property, only the first $1 million is going to be assessed at your parents' level. The second $1 million will be assessed at market rate. That's $10,000 additional property taxes you'll be paying. It requires that you live in the home. So if you can't do that, then the entire property will be reassessed, and this starts brushing up against the whole issue of generational wealth, where it will make owning property more expensive. And in many cases, it may make owning that property financially impossible.
Does that transfer? Well, you mentioned a document or a form or something when children inherit the parents' home, and now they file that with the county. Does that also qualify to get them a step up in basis from a tax standpoint? In other words, when they go to sell the house, they're going to be paying taxes on a lower gain if they get that step up in basis. Is that making sense?
That's an income tax issue, which is outside of our area of specialization. I don't know if Scott knows enough to comment on that, but the step up in basis is not something that is a factor in how we do our job.
Yeah, that will come into play on the income taxes. Generally speaking, as Jeff mentioned, you have some the heirs will have some protection, base year value protection under Prop 19, but that's only if they file timely, right? If you file the what's called a date of death change of ownership statement, if you file that and they put in a claim for homeowners exemption, all of those things are in place timely. There's really no impact at all. They get to keep the base year of their parents' or grandparents' property. But if they don't file timely, let's say it's 10 years and they sell the property, or 10 years and maybe they refinance the property and the chain of title is updated, there can be some penalties involved in that, in terms of paying a higher property tax until Prop 19 becomes into effect prospectively. So there's some issues there that are important for homeowners to understand.
Yeah, it's a good idea at that time to get an appraisal too, so you lock in what their value is and help on the tax side. Shamika has a question here. Is there any data that captures how corporate housing purchases have contributed to or reduced the homeless population in the Black community?
Yeah, we don't have that data.
Is anybody asking for that data from you guys, or anybody that should be asking for that data from you in order to sort of draw some of those correlations?
Well, this is a good question. We want people to be asking these questions. At the end of the day, we're not going to be the ones who can answer them. We're going to provide this raw data that gives them an opportunity to think more deeply about these issues. Frankly, you are the first group in the community that we have presented this data to. You're getting this before anyone else. And we've had some brief conversations with some folks in the county. But our goal is to have a series of meetings like this where we present this data, and then we can begin to match policymakers who are involved with housing and homelessness with this data and with organizations like this who are asking these questions so they can begin to make more informed judgments.
So
I
if I can follow up on that real quickly, we just met with a group this morning, who's part of the county's homeless initiative, and we're starting to put a data sharing partnership with them. And so this is exactly the kind of question that that we can start to answer when we start sharing data with them, because they have the stats on homelessness, so we can start putting our heads together and we can answer some of those questions.
In fact, that this question, when the West Side, there's a big thing with the development over in on La Cienega, La Tijera, and Centinela, that little corridor right in there. When they had that meeting with the West Side or a group, neighborhood housing, this was a conversation that we were having quite violently, actually. The second one was a little bit tamer, but Holly Mitchell was running the second one. And these are the questions that they were asking, is that they're driving prices up. Our younger people cannot buy pricing. And then the solution to that is to put in these big conglomerate housing apartment complexes, which really gives you no generational wealth. It just gives you're paying astronomical amounts of rent for that. And the same thing for the one they just broke ground over on Crenshaw. Over there, the 800 units, which is only a small percentage for 184 units, I believe, for the affordable housing piece of it. So this is very valuable information, because somehow now there's a disconnect. And that was a question. If you're not building single family homes, but you're providing $25,000 down payment assistance for homes that you can't buy anyway. So the math doesn't math, basically. And so that the solution to finding homes or the eliminating homelessness is not going to ever happen if corporate entities are coming in and buying up all the property, driving the prices across the country. Then how do you solve homelessness? You don't. But so they do need that. Basically, what I'm saying is this information needs to be to the individuals, the urban planners that are actually sitting down having conversations, because obviously they don't have this information. So that's just my little soapbox piece right there.
I have another question. I have another question. If Prop 13 was not in place, any speculation on what the property tax revenue would be, and what that increased funding to the county would be? How that might affect programs that the county's doing, or education, or correlating to the rest of the country. I mean, Prop 13 is the whole state, but any data on that?
I don't think we have any real data on that, and that would be extremely difficult to speculate. But let me tell you one thing that I have a appraiser in our office who was more of a theoretician, and he came up with a theory that somewhat resonates with me. I don't know that we'd be able to prove it, but when Prop 13 went into effect and it rolled back base year values, it had a significant and catastrophic impact on local government revenues. But the way the real estate market works is when you're purchasing property, you look at a number of variables. You look at variable costs, you look at fixed costs. In every other state, other than California, property taxes are a variable cost. It'll go up or down depending on the market. Property taxes are a fixed cost in California. You get assessed when you purchase your property. That is your assessment for as long as you own it. It will never increase more than 2% a year. So you can project what your property taxes are for the rest of the time you live in that property. One of the market responses to that is that if you're buying property, when you have the biggest variable cost now functioning as a fixed cost, it may inspire buyers of property to pay more than they would otherwise, because they don't want to pay more based on these variable costs. But with the biggest cost being taxes now being fixed, it may have pushed property values even higher than it would have absent Prop 13. It is, I discussed this with the Rand Corporation a couple of years ago and suggested that it would be worthy of an analysis. But I think theoretically, you could make up a plausible argument that property taxes are actually doing as well, if not better than they would have done prior to Prop 13, because of how much values are able to be pushed because of that fixed cost scenario.
Yeah,
It
it
may
gets
not,
me.
we may not be experiencing the sort of revenue catastrophe that a lot of people projected from the early years of Prop 13. Now that the dust is all settled, and this is now normal in California for the last 45 years.
Yeah, it gets me because when I look at my property tax compared to my next door neighbor who purchased in 1956, and I look at his property tax assessment compared to mine, and it's the same property. Wait a minute, I'm paying more. You're getting the same services I get, but I got to pay a lot more.
There's no question that the system creates a lot of inequitable situations in the market.
I was intent on listening here, and I didn't see if there was any other questions here. We're getting close to our timing at 11:53. We just got a few more minutes, so if anybody had a pressing question, there's a few people that have joined us. Glad you're here, Crystal. Did you see anything in the chat that I missed?
Shamika had another question. No, Asani had a question. Who else will receive this information, and how will the community be aware?
We're just beginning the process of reaching out. We have a presentation coming up with the Consolidated Realtists in another week or two. We're presenting this information to some folks inside the county, the people with the chief executive office and the housing department. Certainly, one of the things we want to ask of all of you, now that you have this information, we want to make sure we get to people who need it. And if you want to point us in the right direction, if there's folks you think we should be giving this information to, we'll do that. And over time, as we get better at it and refine the data, we may record this, find other types of vehicles to get it spread more widely. But we're kind of excited about the direction that we're going, to be able to have to generate this sort of data, and we want to make sure it's spread as widely as possible.
Yeah.
And lastly, can you put a link in the chat where we can get a 50% reduction in our property taxes?
Here, write this phone number down. It's for John Noguez. He's the guy who replaced me and spent a little time in jail for that. He might be able to help you.
Jeff has humor.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat, so oh well.
I think you guys definitely need to talk to Michael Banner because this is his area of expertise in as well. He's not here today, but we can get you over to that, get over to him. And I think Lori Gay from HUD. We don't have Robin today, and she would be able to really lay that out. So would we send that information to Ian?
Yeah, you can send that information to Ian. You can send it directly to me. I know Michael Banner will certainly reach out to him and see if we can schedule something.
Yeah, I think he would definitely be interested in this conversation, as well as Lori Gay over at HUD, because these are conversations I've been having with them as well.
Assessor Jeff Prang, thank you so much for joining us today. Scott Thornberry, Assistant Assessor, thank you. And Ian Michael May, Special Assistant and Field Deputy. Thank you so much for joining. Great information, a lot of statistics, a lot to digest there. And I said before, there are a lot of things that we kind of know are going on. We see what's happening, but the statistics, not only do they confirm it, but they demonstrate the magnitude of what's happening. So
the numbers help you really, the graphics help you really to understand it. And it's just not a talking point. So Thank you guys for that information, and know that the community briefing is here. Anytime you want to come out and do some breaking news to us, we are welcoming. That's the purpose of this platform, is to make sure that our communities of color, Black communities, brown communities, we really know what's happening at the table, because we do not. So we do thank you all. Please keep keep in touch with us if there's other information that you want to get out, and we'll make sure we can direct you to those individuals, because I think this is of some vital information that needs to be part of the discussion of eliminating homeless in Los Angeles County.
Thank you very much. It was great to visit with all of you today. We'll certainly come back and provide more information in the future. And please keep in touch with us as well. Let us know how we can help.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you guys so much. We do appreciate that. Prayers and blessings for your family and safe trip home, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Very grateful.
And go Spartans, right? Go Spartans,
Yeah,
right?
go green.
Yeah, Trojan, man. Scott, thank you so much. And Ian, thank you for helping bring all this together. We so appreciate you. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you out in the community, and as well as welcome back to the community briefing at any point that you like to come. So next week, guys, I think, who do we have? We have a special session going on next week. It's called the Unite Against Hate Town Hall. It's a partnership with Sweet Life, SoCal Magazine, as well as the BBA, Cal versus Hate. And so this is a conversation, obviously, that is going on in our communities, and it's, in the world. The hate is just out of proportion right now. And so please come back. Tell many, many friends. Sarah, you want to jump in there and give us a little bit more? I was actually going to call you. I was just getting ready to send you information. Like, okay, what am I supposed to be putting on here? So Sarah, come tell us all about it.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Yes, it is a partnership with California versus Hate and the California State Library. They have it's a community they're bringing together to combat against hate, and just us being able to come together and know how to where to report it. Some of the ways that we can fight against it, and just kind of talk about it, in our community, and what's going on, especially in light of, where we're at there. It's crazy out here.
Yeah, I mean, with the whole Springfield or Ohio thing took it to a whole nother kind of level.
My
It was already
goodness.
bad. That took it to a whole nother kind of level, and
A
especially
whole nother I mean, and it's just the unbelievable stuff, right?
right,
And
exactly.
so we know that today we're in a state of, if you think it's unimaginable, unbelievable, impossible, no, it's not. So we just need to be as much on top of things and aware of things as much as possible, but more than all, love. Come together and love, fight hate with love or something, because it's just crazy. But anyway, and I just wanted to I popped the flyer in the chat, but we have 3 great speakers that will be a part of the town hall. Ben Caldwell, who is a filmmaker, an artist, and we have a professor at UCLA, Michelle Talley, and also we have one of our esteemed guests commonly here, Edwin Lombard, who consistently visits us at the community briefing. And so we're looking forward to a great discussion on that next week.
Yeah, so go out, tell a friend. The blast will be going out. Please do that. And then the following week, on October 10th, we will be having piggybacking or recapping the conversation that the Urban League is having on the state of Black LA. So we will have Michael Banner speaking on that on the 10th. So please go out and tell everyone. We'd love to have our Zoom meeting just overflowing, because these are very important conversations. And here's the thing: I think I heard someone say with what's going on in Springfield or Ohio. Until a Haitian, and if they don't have the accent, you still don't know. They don't know who's Haitian and who's Black, right? And we're all Black. So there's that. So And then if you happen to have an accent that's very similar to Haitian, then you might be thrown in there as well. So basically,
let's not confuse ourselves and think that they care about accents or anything
no, they
else
don't.
like
It's the
that.
skin
They're
color.
going to look at that skin color and lump you with the group. So if you think I'm not Haitian, so this doesn't apply to me, you're fooling yourself.
Right, exactly. So that's why it's so very important, and we need to unite against hate, because it's being pointed at people of color, and that's what's important, and specifically for us Black people. Now, our field correspondent, Ms. Emma Maxey, is going to give us an update on the conversation that the town hall meeting for voting that took place last night at the new townhouse, her and Roz Pendleton. So update, please, field correspondent.
Okay. By the way, Crystal, I just sent the flyer. I can't paste into the chat. Can you send it if
Okay.
you got it?
Yeah.
I would appreciate it. And this is going to be our updated flyer, the remaining meetings that we'll have until the election. So we had a great crowd, about over 70 people last night, I believe.
Wow.
We had a very lively conversation, and I appreciate everyone that attended. We talked about, obviously, Prop 2025. There's so much involved. We took about 10 or 12 issues and talked about them, gave everyone in the room a chance to comment. And we took away information that we know we need to work on. How can we get the message out before the election and talk about it across the country, our friends, our family, duplicate what we're doing at the townhouse, other places, even trying to figure out if we can put the remaining meetings on a Zoom. So it was very good. A lot of people appreciate it, and they're going to bring more people. And just so in case I don't think I see the flyer yet.
I'm getting ready to put it up. And Emma,
right.
I'm going to send you over the information for Win with Black Women, because they're collecting that data on all organizations that's doing that. And I think Nisi with the receipts, that's with Win with Black Women, they do a report on this every Sunday evening on who's doing what. So I'm going to send that over to you so that you can get that to them. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate it. And Roz, I see Roz is on the call, so been amazing. But next week, we're going to talk about civics. We are asking as many young people to join us and participate. Rod Wright and Senator Steve Bradford will facilitate that conversation. So it should be interesting. And again, we open it up to everyone in the audience, and they comment and contribute. So we guarantee you'll have very, very informative evening. And since the 9th, we're having a discussion on the judges that are on the ballot. I haven't seen who they are, but it's important that we know who they are. We can do our homework as soon as possible and get people informed about them. There are quite a few. We did do our measures and propositions. It was last week, and it was quite interesting as well. We may have to go over some of them because some people actually got the information and didn't write it down, but we kept records of it. We'll get it to you, what we came up with. And we're not trying to tell everybody what to vote or how to vote. We're hoping that they make their own choices, but if they don't know how or want to do it, come to us, we'll help you.
Emma, I just want to interrupt and just say that in talking about the measures and things, this is really a real town hall where you get all kinds of opinions, and ultimately, and for the measures and ballots, they talked about pros and cons of each one of them, and they came away with what the general consensus was in the room, and ultimately they'll vote on them themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But in the town halls and in the discussions that we have, it is interaction and it is involved, and we really should have had a way to send this out and to record it and Zoom it. And that was the major thing that people said yesterday. It was because yesterday was so powerful that we're now looking at ways to actually to send it out, not just in California, to send it out so that people can mimic this and have these type of discussions with family, friends, and to do this, because this is what's needed. And one of the things that we started last night, or we're going to continue to have, is at the end of each discussion, there's a call to action. And telling people now now that you talk about what this means and you know more, what is your particular involvement? What are you going to do to push this out and push it more? So it's really a good forum, and I just commend Emma for the idea. I just have the place. So
I'm not taking credit for that.
So, and coming up with doing this, and everybody comments on how powerful this forum is. So.
Hey, Roz.
Go ahead,
Roz. You could do that monthly. You could have town hall at the townhouse and do that once a month.
We need to follow up after the election on a lot of these subjects, because people were very interested and they're giving us so much information and ideas, and they're excited. And this goes beyond the election, especially if our candidate wins. We can do a lot to support her as well. So I'm excited about it. I want to continue it. We need to educate as many people as we can about everything. So I agree.
And I do. And in fact, that's what, Win with Black Women, they came aboard when Atlanta was pulling, when Stacey Abrams, and they just maintained and kept going. And they've been able to do a lot. So I think it's an excellent idea. Because now it's accountability, right? When we see these things that are going on, mayors being corrupt, and this is happening, we can stop that on the front end before it actually gets to epidemic state, right? But we have to be informed. And what we found out right now for this election, people don't know what they don't know. I mean, people still say, I don't know who Kamala is. All I know is she locked up all Black people. No, she didn't do that. And so those are the things. So I think that's a fantastic idea. And then maybe the community briefing can come in and record those, and then we can then get that information out to everyone else, right? Because I think it's going to take this whole community. And Sarah, maybe you and I can have this conversation about the BCCLA, and that could be part of that as well when we're talking about that advocacy thing. So you and I will talk about that offline with the other team there.
For sure,
a great idea. One thing I'd like to know from Emma or Roz, what was the ratio between young people and old people? Not old people. But
what's the definition of young?
That was young, under 25. We didn't have any real young people, I would tell you. I think my son came, but he's in his 30s, so he didn't count. But
these days, anything under 60 is young, right?
That's why
the young voting people.
Pardon me.
That's why
old enough to vote. Those people.
Renee, that's why for this one we've asked, because it is civics. And we know that a lot of youngsters don't know about civics. We've asked the attendees, and we've asked when we send it out for this week to really stress young people coming. And we need that involvement from everybody here, as well as everybody, like sending it out to get young people to come. We also have the opportunity for them to register to vote there as well. Yes. So we're doing, we're trying to get young people, but especially for this one, because they're going to talk about how this system works. And then ultimately, when we do electoral college, we're going to talk about how the president is elected. So we do need young people, and we just encourage everybody to get young people to come.
Awesome. Emma, if you'll look in the link, I put the link in for the new Win with Black Women. That is the form you sign up for all states that are organizing events and so forth. And then they will read it out on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening at 5:30. And they do a Zoom. I think I wasn't on this one, but I know the week before it was 4,400 women on there.
I was on that one.
Yeah, so I wasn't on that, but this is the link that you go. We can add that in, and then I am going to post this new update over there on their site as well.
Great.
We want to thank everybody. Boy, we're just moving along and being impactful in our area, in our communities, and that's so important. And it's the unity. That's what's so important. The coalition of unity of people coming together to make it better for our community. There's some other, while we're talking about supporting and collaborating, there's some other very important events that are coming up from the BBA, from Crenshaw Chamber, from GLAC. The Women's Leadership Symposium is there, which is Dr. Polk, I think, or what's his name, Polk Institute. Let me put it that way, as well
Gary
as
Polk.
Derek Polk. So to pull those down, and of course, you can right-click these, click them, and then go to your computer and save them. That is how you guys get the actual copy of these flyers. So click them, make them bigger, and then right-click them and save them to your computer. And then please, let's all utilize our social medias by tagging each other and putting them on our social medias so that they can reach out. And if you got some activate kids, advocacy kids, then have them put it on their platform so that they can then get it to their peers and grow. I'm going to ask my nephews, they're not really into social media, but I will ask them to put it on theirs as well. All right, guys.
Emma, quick question. Emma, quick question for you. When does the ballot come out? Because we have the voter information.
I think they're coming out today. I have a list. In fact, Roz, do you have that list that I was supposed to leave? I think I made copies and left them at the townhouse, but it gave all the dates. I have so much stuff on my table. Let me see if I can find it. But I believe they're going to be in the mail today. It was interesting. I've been waiting for the ballot because I really need to see. I know what the measures and propositions are, who the other things that we're voting on. I have no clue. And it's really important because we're going to be really, really working hard at the last minute trying to identify the judges. I talked with Councilwoman Gloria Gray in Inglewood, and she's very interested. She's coming in. She says she has a lot of candidates in the Inglewood that are on the ballot, but we don't know that. I mean, it's in their area, but we try to include. It doesn't matter what district you live in. We want to find out and try to help everyone. So as soon as we get the information, we'll try to get that information out to people so that you can see. And then
we'll say, Emma, when the sample ballots are coming on what you gave. It doesn't say when the sample ballots are coming out.
Oh, it didn't say that. Okay. I wasn't sure. I don't think we're going to get like we got the primary where we actually had a sample ballot. I don't think we're going to get that this year. I think when we receive it, it's going to be your actual ballot. So it's going to be late, and we have to use that as our template to make sure we fill it out correctly and take it to the poll if you're going. But everyone is getting their ballots in the mail.
I think they do say that the 26th, which is today, that they will begin mailing out the voter information guides. So maybe that includes the sample ballots. Right. And then on October 7th, they're gonna mail the ballots out.
I believe Finona Ma said that last week. I think she said that because we're doing the online, it was going to be a little bit different, but we'll see. I mean, all the information probably will be rolling through next week. I do know, and I don't know if you guys, this week we do want to make sure we do need to see that ballot because in Montana they left. What did you get? Yours?
This is the voter information guide. I got this 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah, that's the general election, but mostly those are I have it here too, the propositions, the measures, and that's it. I don't have anything about our
candidates, judges, none of that.
None of that.
All right. Y'all were on that. I haven't even looked at it. I just knew I had received it.
Another thing we got to take in consideration, there are a lot of seniors that want to vote. We talked about this last night. How do we help them? We thought about maybe bringing them to the townhouse, especially on the 30th, and let them bring their ballots and help them because otherwise they're not going to vote. They're not going to be able to get to because everyone is going to receive their ballots unless they go to the poll. They may not have transportation. So we have a lot of work to do between now and election day. And we got to figure out and work together what is the best vehicle to make sure that we include as many people in this voting opportunity than ever. Young, old, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
I agree. I agree. Well, all right, guys, we're going to sign off from the live event, and thank you all for coming, and please come back. Maybe we have to talk to Stephen and see if we can get that information from the assessor's office so that we can, or some information so that we can continue to outreach to other people, because that was some pretty significant information, especially the corporation stuff. So thank you guys for joining us today, and we will see you next week. Go tell everybody, because next week is really important. Not that all of these are not important, but stop the Unite Against Hate, and as well as the State of Black LA. Very, very important conversation. So go tell